Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a very fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. I really enjoy eyeshadow, singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter. And today we're going to be talking about basically my gateway palettes into new brands. If that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me, we're getting into it right now. Basically what I wanted to do with this particular video is talk to you about some of the brands that previously I was kind of like ho-hum about, but over the last year I have really become like much more enthusiastic and excited about. And I wanted to show you some of the palettes that I had picked out that sort of pushed me in that direction. So where to begin? I guess the first one we'll talk about is Unique Beauty, and if you can't tell, I'm a collector at this point. I don't know what to tell you. There is a video on my channel where I go through and I rank all of these palettes, but the one that like really stole my heart and made me start ordering from them was this palette. This is the Dark Souls palette, and I picked this particular one out because of this like duochrome slash multichrome very like gel formula type shade, and I just thought the quality on this was really nice. The mattes are a little thin, and you'll hear me say that in the review video that I did for these, ranking them, but all in all, like, the shimmers more than make up for the mattes, so that one really like prompted me then to just be keeping an eye out for everything that the brand does. I have stuff in my cart right now. So that's brand number one. Should we stick with indie for a little bit? I guess so. So brand number two I'll talk about is Alien Cosmetics, which is now Unearthly Cosmetics, and the palette that really got me into them was the Strawberry Milkshake palette, which looks like this. When I first saw this palette I was like, yeah, I don't need it, and then the more I saw it and the more I saw people using it, I was like, oh my gosh, I need it. And I went and picked it up, and I really liked the formula. These like ultra buttery metallics I really enjoy. The only shade I think is kind of unnecessary is this like really beige shade, because I don't think it has much of a purpose, but the rest of the palette I really did like, and so that prompted me then to throw my palettes on the floor. Good for me. That prompted me then to pick up the Not Normal palette, which looks like this, and I haven't gotten a chance to use this one, I don't think, to do like an actual look. I did use one of the other palettes that I picked up from her, the Hauntingly Glamorous, but I wasn't as big of a fan of that one, so that one's kind of like meh on my list. But yeah, I definitely used that Strawberry Milkshake as like a springboard for the rest of their collection. Next on the indie scene, this one is kind of a roundabout way, but originally I tried out the Midas Cosmetics and Smoky Glow palette. I guess I'll put it over here. The Midas Cosmetics and Smoky Glow palette, and I really liked the colors and the formula of this particular palette. And when they came out with a collab palette between Midas and Drench, which was the Genesis palette, I'll show you in just a moment, that one really sparked my interest. It's got these beautiful blues and then like some soft neutral shades, and I think this is a beautiful color story. Every look that I've done with this one I have been like over the moon about. I really enjoy this palette. So for me, this really like gave me gateway then into Drench Cosmetics. Midas Cosmetics has gone out of business, is going out of business, I'm not really sure. I picked up two of their palettes on a clearance, and you can definitely tell that they've been sitting in a warehouse for too long because they are very dry. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but whatever. Palette that I had to get from Drench then was the Lunar Retrograde palette, and this is a collab palette with Neon MUA. This one ended up being one of like my most enjoyed palettes from last month, and it just has such a nice combination of like blues, purples, pinks. You've got a handful of neutrals in there. You've got a white and a black. The black in here is really good quality. The shimmers in here are fantastic. So from those Midas Cosmetic palettes and the collab palette that they did, that really pushed me into getting really excited about Drench. The next one to talk about is Sugar Drizzle Polish. Now, I used to be a like faithful customer of It's Belle Cosmetics, and I feel like their customer service is kind of lacking, so I ended up wanting a shade out of one of their palettes but found it in this palette instead. So I decided to purchase this palette instead because I've not had any bad experiences from this brand, and it actually was a similar price but for more shades. So I picked this one up. I'm really excited about it. I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet, but I already purchased another palette from them, and I did use the other palette that I picked up from them was this Warrior palette, and it looks like this. And this one, like, I really loved using this one. I've used it probably 5 or 6 times. All of the shimmers in here are really great quality. I think they did a really good job with the mattes, like kind of fitting in with the shimmers. Could not be happier. That definitely springboarded me into getting this palette, and then that has springboarded me into getting ready to order the MILF Frogs palette. So that one is on my to-do list next weekend when it comes out. Alright, next up from indie, and then I think we're heading more mainstream, is Blend Bunny Cosmetics. And the palette that really pushed me into buying from them in the first place was the Surge palette, which looks like this. I had been wanting to get some neon shades for a while, and I was thinking about getting some singles because I couldn't find any palettes that I thought were good quality that had like really good neon shades. And then she released this, which not only has like some soft pastels, some mid-tone and deeper tone shades, but it has this row of neons and then a row of shimmers. And I was so excited, I went ahead and picked this one up. I've used this one a couple of times. I know it looks like I haven't used it at all, but I've mostly stuck to like this side of the palette. And I do think the quality is really, really good. And when they released the sneak peeks for the Dollhouse palette, I was like, do I need a neutral palette from them? Yeah, apparently I do. And so I picked this one up, and I really, really like this one too. As much as I'm not like a super neutral person, the shades that they have in here are so like smoky and cool toned that I think this palette looks really, really nice. And I think everything that she releases, I'm gonna have my eyes peeled for, because her palettes, her color stories, the way that she sets them up, they're so aesthetically pleasing, and the actual quality is very, very good, and I think it's worth the price point. So next, Sigma. I have been looking at Sigma for probably 3 years, I want to say, and being like, at some point I'm going to need to buy a palette of theirs. I want to try their formula. Everybody raves about it, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't decide between their Enchanted palette. They had one that had like tiger stripes on it. Couldn't decide. And so I was like, I'm not going to buy one just to buy one. Like, I want to buy one that I'm really excited to try. And then they released the Sigma and Cinderella palette, which I don't know why, but this like caught me off guard with how pretty it is. Like, you just have these really pretty kind of like smoky cool tones over here that have some color to them, and then more neutrals on the other side. The shimmers in here have like a nice deep base, and they're very, very sparkly. They catch the light so beautifully that I was obsessed, and I waited, and ultimately it went on sale through Amazon of all places. I didn't even know Sigma was sold on Amazon, but it went on sale on Amazon, and I picked this one up, and now I know how good the formula is and now I'm like, I want all the palettes. But yeah, so that one definitely was my gateway palette for Sigma Beauty. Alright, next up is Melt Cosmetics, and Melt was one that I never thought I could justify the cost of the palettes. And the first palette that I ever picked up from them was She's in Parties, which is this like smoky purple number right here, and I really love the formula. It's such a beautiful collection of colors. The only color in here that doesn't work super well for me is this Skeleton Kiss shade, because it's just kind of like it's fine, but it's just not as exciting as I thought it was going to be. I mean, you can see there. Like, you can see it, but it's just not as like wow as I thought it was going to be. But anyway, this palette was really nice quality. And then a few weeks ago, they relaunched Gemini, they relaunched Gemini, and they added Gemini 2. And this palette like pushed me over the edge. The fact that the quality on this one was so good, I immediately was like, I need to try all the palettes. My husband then was kind enough to get me Muerte and Vita, so I got those two, and I've been trying those out. I picked up Millennial Pinks off Mercari unused, and somewhere around here, I think in a box on the floor, I'm not going to lean over and kill myself, is Melt Mary Jane. So I have been just like scarfing up all the Melt palettes, and I could not be happier with my purchases because the quality I'm coming to discover is really good for those. Alright, next up, gateway palette wise, is this NARS palette. This is the Climax palette, which I think is a stupid name for this palette, but whatever. What do I know? They name everything Climax. And it looks like this, and it kind of reminds me of like what I thought the Khaki Haze was going to be from Huda Beauty, but this is really pretty. This olivey shade here with these mattes are so nice together. This really kind of like grungy brown is very pretty. I love the soft like denim blue of this shade. The metallics in this palette are very, very intense metallics, and I just really, really love that formula. I don't know where they get it from, but they just look so pretty, and they have such a nice reflection. Every time I wear this palette, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. So now that I've seen what this palette is capable of, every time NARS releases something, I'm always like, what's that? Do I need to put it in my cart? Because it kind of seems like I do. And maybe this is why I have a problem with owning too many palettes. Who should we talk about next? Let's talk about Lorac next. So I loved the old Lorac formula. I had the Lorac Pro 1, the Pro 2, I had the Pirates of the Caribbean palette, and then they stopped producing eyeshadow for a hot minute. Oh, and I had the Unzipped palettes. There was 2 of those. And then they released this, the Lorac Pro Noir. And inside, it looks like this. The only thing I don't love is the shade names are on like a little piece of paper that you'll inevitably lose. But like this gunmetal-y silver shade and this almost like purpley metal shade are so, so pretty. And then you have these kind of like flaky shades here. This one's like not picking up for some reason. But like again, you just get some really, really beautiful finishes. You've got some nice mattes that you can use to kind of complete a look here. These are removable magnetic pans, so you can kind of shuffle things around if you buy more than one of their palettes, which I think is cool. I'm hoping that they will re-release the Fairy Tale Forest because I think I need that one after trying this one. Quality is phenomenal. Alright, next I'll talk about Natasha Denona. Now this one is kind of roundabout because I tried several of her palettes, or I purchased several of her palettes before this one, but using this one really just opened my eyes to how beautiful her finishes are, and it made me want to go back and use all of my other palettes. So this is the Retro palette, and like this shade here, this shade here, this one here, I love this. I know a lot of people don't like it, that like wet to dry formula that she has. I love it. I think it smooths out so beautifully, and I cannot wait to keep using this palette. I think it gives you just the most soft romantic looks, and because I've used this one and liked it so much, it reminds me to go back and use the Sunrise palette, the Glam palette, the Bronze palette, my mini palette. So I have a lot of her shades in her formulas, and they are just really top-notch. And one of the other brands that I've come to really get excited about over the last year or so is Huda Beauty, and it started with the Mercury Retrograde palette, which I got on sale, and just the shades in this one, these textured shades here, this really flaky kind of shade here, you've got these like sparkly duochromes here. I really, really like this palette. I think this was beautifully done, and because this was so well done, it really pushed me to want to try some of her other stuff, and I've ended up picking up Rose Quartz, I've picked up Wild Jaguar, I picked up the colorful, what's that one? Python, and I've picked up the 2 nude Light and Deep. These are phenomenal. I love the variety of textures in these palettes. The smoothness of her mattes is really nice. So for me, that one palette was really a gateway into pretty much her whole collection. Not all her 9-pan palettes are good though. She's kind of on like an every other in terms of success rate. So the color block ones I anticipated were going to be garbage, and so far that's kind of the vibe I've gotten. So I'm hoping the next set of 9-pans, whatever they are, they're going to be fire. Alright, and then the last one that I want to talk about is actually by Beauty Bay. And this one, the Book of Magic palette, is definitely the one that pushed me into this brand. I was not purchasing from them originally because I didn't want to support a company that was selling Jeffree Star stuff, But then I sort of rethought what I was doing and decided, you know, maybe it would be better not to say I'm not purchasing anything from them, but just not purchase those brands directly, so they can see that other brands are more valuable, more interesting, more dollars are coming their way, and less money is going towards that one. So I ultimately changed my mind, to each their own though on that. And so I picked up this one, these blues. Oh my god, this like purpley shade here. I am obsessed with this palette. I think this is a really, really pretty color story. Greens, blues, purple will always be like my slam dunk. And then they came out with Age of Opulence, and that one was even prettier. Like, I don't know how they did it, but then they made this one, which is like the deep dark little sister of Book of Magic. So I definitely snatched this one right up, and I've loved using the mattes in this one. The shimmers I don't use as often because most of the shimmers in this palette are actually neutral shimmers, but I do think that the mattes are really pretty and they make a great base. I do also have the A.O. Corley palette and the Wilderness palette, both good quality palettes, but yeah, those palettes definitely were my springboard for that brand. So with that said, I want to hear from you. What are the palettes that you have that really made you start taking a second look at the offerings of a particular brand? Like, what product pushed you into paying more attention to that brand? I really want to know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!